All right, we'll catch everyone up to speed. Both of us have dug our heels in. We're not going in. It's lots of fun. All right, everybody's up to speed now.
So proceed with what you're saying.
Yep. So we just feel that it is necessary to avoid bankruptcy in the long run and to keep our business viable to have a pay cut at this point per hour, but to keep the bonuses intact for employees who are currently with the company and not for new hires any longer.
Okay, so right now, once we opened up the plant, new hires were hired at a lower rate anyway. It was just us veteran employees that were given the higher rate, and then we were creating what some might call a slush fund that was helping pay for these employees to continue at the rate of pay that they were at without the incentives. So I guess our fear is what are you thinking you want these wages at? Because we're still kind of feeling like, we need a raise, and we haven't been able to come to negotiations because we did the 7-year contract, where before we were coming in every 3 years or so. And so we kind of feel like we've been shorthanded also by the 7-year contract because we haven't been receiving raises. We realize that there's a recession out there, but we still feel like our quality of work deserves a raise.
So as management, we are confident that as we keep the incentives in place, that with where productivity will go, that wages overall will not diminish. But through talking to our legal counsel, we feel that we have a solid case on the Me Too clause, which says that wages should be down at $8.60 per hour.
So you want to cut all of our employees by $2 an hour. So you're talking in a day, that's $16 a day. So if you do that by 5 weeks or by 5 days, that's $80 a week. So, and there's 52 weeks, 52 months, no, 52 weeks in a year, right? So you want to diminish our employees by $4,160 a year. You need to understand that is a huge cut in pay for employees. That can be the difference of putting food on their families' tables. I just don't think that that's even conceivable.
We understand that that can be difficult, but at the same time, we are fully confident that with the bonuses staying intact, that wages overall will not go down considerably.
And how am I to know that you're not going to come back, if we were to agree on this, come back and say, oh, never mind, now we can't do bonuses? Because you're coming back on your word. You gave us your word that we were going to have 1069 for 7 years, and that would increase as other companies increased.
Right. So as we look forward, this is just a 2-year agreement that we're willing to sign overall, that the bonuses will stay intact. Also looking forward, if we do have to take a legal direction and it's long and drawn out, we also understand that 2 years from now, we can go a complete different direction and get all the way down to the middle of the pack for the industry standard.
Okay. I feel like that's a threat. Which I don't like. Okay. So I think we are willing to compromise, but I'm thinking $8.69 is just far too low. There needs to be better compromise than that.
What are you thinking?
I'd have to check with all my union reps, but I'm thinking the lowest we could probably go is $10.
Oh. I was talking with my management reps before coming into this meeting about what we'd be willing to go to, and $10 is just too high, we may have to go to arbitration if that's the case.
Well, then we may need to go to arbitration. Because I think that you're trying to take advantage of a clause that was meant to increase pay, not decrease pay.
All right. So where do we go from here?
That's the question.
Did I do okay, Dallas and Becky? I tried to stay strong.
Great. You stayed strong. Good job.
You definitely read too much of the case material. You knew a lot more than I did.
I don't know about that.
So we're supposed to come up with the number that we're all supposed, I think, for the next step. Do I remember that right?
Yeah, we're supposed to agree on a wage. But I think both sides are kind of stubborn.
Yeah, we're stubborn.
I think that's reality.
Luckily for us, this is something that completely doesn't matter to us. We can come up with the number and just go with it.
That's true.
We were saying 925 was going to be our top.
Are you serious? These poor people are going to be starving.
Well, remember inflation back in 1983, 925 was a little bit more money.
Well, that was our
I was
negotiation.
in high school. I don't remember.
Right. That's what I was telling them beforehand. I mean, that's close to $14.15 an hour now, because my dad in 1978 bought a house for $23,000.
Yes.
So I want to know what was the number that you guys were thinking, like the lowest?
10.
We
That is
want
way
to keep
too
the
high.
same.
We really wanted a raise and more incentives.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, just the numbers didn't support, like the productivity was so high that it didn't really support cutting the wages at this point. Also, one of our negotiation points was, except not the inflation, like, because that's a clause that we would get inflation every year, and taking that out,
Yep.
but not dipping below.
So what's your argument on that the industry average is way lower than $10?
But our productivity.
It's always been lower. I mean, Baxter's always paid their employees more than the other industries.
Right, but there's a lot more.
Right, but I think
It was a precedence. It was a precedence.
yeah, I think their numbers supported it.
So I have a question. For how the case is talking about, since the quota is really low, so then a lot of employees get a lot of bonuses from, even more, like a lot more than, the base. So do you feel like there's something that can justify that? Like maybe put the quota a little higher?
Well, I know they had really high incentives before they opened the new plant, but when they opened the new plant, a lot of those incentives were taken away.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that's when they created that fund to help those families who were not going to be making the same wages any longer, to help support those families so they can continue with those same wages. And that's when they brought all the new hires came in at a lower rate of pay.
Anyone read the debrief?
I haven't. It just says that everybody gets to read it on their own.
Yeah.
Did you read it, Jeff? Did you read the debrief?
No, I haven't yet.
Should we pull it up and look at it?
Well, the next step was, we're supposed to agree on a number, and then there's actually something else where we're supposed to go our separate ways and read and come back together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, step 3 on the discussion leaders. Direct your team to reading. There's one for each team. And then when you're done, come back and you have 20 to 30 minutes to negotiate a final contract. Then it's the debrief.
But wasn't what we were reading is what we already read prior to coming?
No, this is another thing,
Oh, really?
I believe.
So should we try to split room that, Jeff, you discover?
Yeah, I'll look at this breakout room and say, let me open this thing and make sure it is different. But yeah, this is its 1985 confidential information. and it's 4 or 5 pages.
Yeah, I see that one.
So yeah, if everyone goes into the discussion later, you'll see the tab. That's easier than figuring out how to email it.
Okay, so we go to the discussion leader instructions.
Yes. And then it's step 3.
My computer's running slow.
But we are supposed to agree on a number beforehand going in. Anybody opposed to 967? That's right in the middle.
Yeah, I'm opposed to it. It needs to be higher.
I'm fine with it. Let's go for it.
I won't go below 9. Yeah.
How about 975?
Sure.
All right, done. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good number.
975.
Let's
No,
do
we
9.
lose.
Well, we got to compromise, Becky.
But we lose. And it's 3 years, so we have to lose.
Okay, let's go with $28 an hour and just.
Thank you.
Go.
Thank you. That's all I have. Okay, I finally found where we were supposed to go. Okay.
Everybody find it?
3.
All right, so let me see.
Yeah.
Breakout rooms.
Is it the debrief and end notes?
Yes. No.
No, it's above that.
It's above that.
It's
There's-
the 1985 negotiations. It says password protected.
Yes, step 3.
Wait, it's not password protected for me. I just download it.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I've got it.
Well, it's only password protective if you're part of the union. So apparently you guys have.
Oh, that's it. We had to have passwords to get it.
All right, so I'm assigning the breakout rooms. I'm hoping I can get into one of them because it doesn't give me an option to put myself in one. But I just opened them. Does
Breakout room 2, I see.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to join it. So maybe goodbye.
All right, yeah, and I'm going into one.
I think it works.
Oh, hey, it worked. We're all here.
Is it still recording? That's interesting. All right. I guess this is how we should have started the meeting with our negotiation thing.
So then we have to read.
Yeah, it's a big long thing. Anybody fast at reading?
All right, well, let's just get through it as fast as we can, I guess.
Okay.
My computer is being slow at pulling it up.
Is it up yet, or we just each want to read it on our own, or?
Whatever.
Well, I can start, and then we can just kind of take turns.
Sounds good.
It is July 18th, 1985, exactly 1 month prior to the expiration of the contract established in the 1978 labor agreement. In the 1981 wage negotiation between the International AFL-CIO and a number of the food processing companies, including Baxter, the base wage rate was frozen at $10.69. Following significant changes in the industry, wages were renegotiated at nearly all of the food processing companies. In your 1983 negotiations with Local 190, wages were renegotiated and set at X. Since your last negotiation, relations between management and labor at the Deliat plant have been increasingly acrimonious. Preliminary negotiations have produced no movement on either side's part and little evidence that an agreement will be reached soon. Both sides publicly acknowledged the likelihood of a strike when the current contract expires in August. Local 190 leadership is vocal and antagonistic in its clear no concession stance. They have begun to prepare for a strike by getting finances in place and hiring a New York City public relations firm to tell their side of the story. In anticipation of increased acrimony, management recently purchased $80,000 of barbed wire to circle the packing house, claiming it was needed for protection of the plant and its workers. Part of the tension is due to the specific situation in Deliat, but part is probably attributable to the climate of labor relations in general throughout the nation. Industrial relations are in turmoil. Some have gone so far as to claim that this era will see the end of organized labor in the United States. On May 31st, 1985, Baxter management announced that if the company and Local 190 have not come to an agreement by the expiration date of the current contract, it will terminate the current contract. Any employer in the United States has the right to terminate a contract when it expires, but few do so because of the negative impact on bargaining and the likelihood that such a move would precipitate a strike. Instead, most companies continue to honor the previous contract during contract negotiations. During the early 1980s, with its high unemployment and negative legal climate for labor, unions have been reticent to strike, and companies are beginning to terminate contracts with unyielding unions. Baxter's termination of the contract could have three important and very negative effects on Local 190. One, the 52-week layoff notice requirement would no longer be in place. Management could give layoff notices effective at the date of the notice. Laid off workers could lose their right of first refusal on any new jobs, and wages could be set at a new rate determined by management. By law, Local 190 would have the choice of either striking or working under the conditions specified in management's final offer before the contract deadline. If the union struck, Baxter could legally hire replacement workers.
You want me to read?
Yeah, if you want.
Operations at Baxter have seen some important changes since the end of your last negotiation. The new plant is operating efficiently and is viewed by many in the industry as the most efficient plant of its type in the world. In the old plant, a team of workers stuffed sausage into casings. In the new plant, one worker slips the casing over a spinning disc as the machine fills and cuts 25 sausages every minute. This is but one example, but the entire plant runs this way. A machine manned by one worker now accomplishes in 4 hours what it used to take a group of workers a shift to complete. A computer monitors all the operations in the plant, calculating the most cost-effective method of fitting production to the currently available supply of meats, vegetables, and other food products. For 2 years after the new plant was built, Baxter provided attractive severance packages to motivate old employees to retire, while they hired over 350 new employees each year. Because of the rapid rate of hiring, the new employees were trained on the line by others who were just learning the ropes in the new plant. This resulted in two unintended consequences. First, the new employees were quickly introduced to the workers' complaints rather than socialized by management trainers into the wonders of the modern new plant. Second, the rate of injuries in the new plant is significantly higher than that in the old plant and higher than the industry average. The union is quite up in arms about the injury rates. They claim the injury rate is 202 injuries per 100 employees. You know this figure is exaggerated, but realized that Deloitte has more workdays lost to injury than Baxter's other plants and than the industry average. You believe most of the injuries result from the employees' inexperience with the different working patterns required by the up-to-date technology of the new facility. The employees who were transferred over from the old plant seem to have trouble adjusting and have been resistant to the change in work habits that are required by the new methods of production. You agree with the top management that the level of injuries will fall as all the workers become more familiar with the new line. The Human Resource Group has become involved distributing a brochure on safety to each of the employees. Some of the so-called injuries will continue, however, as long as Iowa's worker compensation laws continue to provide nearly full wages to workers who file industry reports and stay home to recover. Okay. Do you want to read, Winona?
Yeah, I'll go for it. The work rules of the new facility are controlled by management since the production quotas and incentive plans were eliminated in the 1978 contract negotiation. Your superiors realize that some of the rules have received a negative response from a fraction of the employees. For example, because the new lines run continuously, it is necessary that all stations be manned at all times. This in return simply means that if an employee must leave the line, he or she needs to let a supervisor know so that a replacement can be called. There has been grumbling about this rule as well as other rules, but it's generally coming from just a few employees. And you feel the dissension will gradually disappear as everyone gets used to the new method. of production and the changes in work habits that it requires. One other point of friction with the union is their perception that employees in the new plan are working harder for less money. Hold on, I'm going to highlight that.
Right.
While they're not working harder, it's true that the plan products more efficiently, but the new line has made most of the employees' tasks much easier. Only a few positions on the line have to work as hard as nearly all the employees used to. Second, take-home pay is not falling, as the union claims. We need to take that point.
Yeah.
It is remaining constant due to the provisions of the 1978 contract. The incentive program has not been reinstated, but employees who were carried over from the old plan still receive money out of the escrow account to bring their take-home pay up to the level it was before the incentive program was eliminated. It is only new workers who do not receive escrow account payments. Baxter's experience with the new plan and the growing unrest of the workers in, Daliot, place a lot of pressure on you to do well in this negotiation. As you prepare with the two other members of the team, you realize there are a number of issues that must be negotiated into the new contract. These include layoff and hiring procedures, incentive pay, work rules, and wages discussed in detail below. We have a lot of things we need to discuss in the contract.
I can keep going. Layoff and hiring procedures. Since the 1978 negotiations, Baxter has provided generous retirement packages to urge veteran employees to leave the company. This was necessary because of the efficiencies in the new plant. It has worked well and additional layoffs have not been required. Rather than try to find busy work and filler jobs for people whose jobs were eliminated through efficiencies of the new facility, you have been able to trim down to a lean, less costly workforce. When new hiring has been done, you hired rookies who are eager to work in relatively high wages at the relatively high wages you offer, and who do not bring with them the complaints and grudges of veteran employees. While retirements have made this possible to date, you realize that in the future layoffs may be necessary. You would like to retain full management control over hiring and firing. It is archaic to have a 52-week layoff notice requirement in the current contract. This is likely to be an important issue for the union, so top management has decided that they could make some concessions. They are willing to grant some grace period with layoff notices, and they are willing to have some percentage of new positions filled from layoff lists, but 50% is as high as they want to go. There may also be some discussion of laying off only by seniority. This is difficult and expensive to administer and restrains management flexibility. You are convinced that there is some way to have the union take over the difficult administrative work involved in layoffs, but you are not willing to have 100% of layoffs determined by seniority. Some of the best employees are relatively new, and some of the toughest to deal with have been around forever. Controlling hiring decisions is more important to top management than controlling layoff decisions. No one likes to lay people off, and the company tries to avoid it whenever possible. But hiring is how the company grows and changes, and top management feels they must retain flexibility in this area. Incentive program. The rationale behind eliminating an incentive program in the 1978 negotiation was that the new plant would have very different operating speeds and procedures from the old plant, making it impossible to define acceptable production levels before the new facility was completely operational. While the plant has been open for years now, the labor may argue that plenty of information about production and profit levels is available. Anyone looking closely at the numbers realizes that the recent rise in profit is largely due to management's ability to adjust production and increase the pace of the line as new orders come in. Moving back to production quota and incentive payments for anything above that quota will no doubt pull Baxter right back down again. In addition, in the old plant, each line did the same job all day, year after year. It was simple to calculate what is given level of line production would require from any individual employee, but in the new plan, each line produces multiple products, and the products change, sometimes as often as 5 times in 1 week. While it might be possible to set overall production quotas for the plant, it's unclear how these would be translated to individual lines and individual employee responsibilities on the lines. Top management feels strongly that the loss of control required by an incentive system is unacceptable. Any quota incentive plan takes away management's flexibility. This is a very important issue to top management. But if the union also feels this is a very important issue and demands some movement, perhaps the best thing to do would be to design a new type of system that gives both management and labor some control and some benefits, giving up speed and flexibility so that employees can rest all afternoon like they used to do in the old plant, and getting nothing in return is not an option. Work rules. One of the big problems with giving at all on the question of an incentive plan is that the union is likely to link that issue with the elimination of work. In the old plant, management mandated work rules were essentially only those required by law. Employees pretty much worked in whatever manner they wished as long as the quotas were met. Different groups worked in different ways, and there was little crossover between lines. The new plant requires that employees be trained in multiple positions and at multiple tasks in one position. Since the line produces different products at different times, given this complexity, there is no way to predict all the work rules that may be needed over the term of the contract. You have discussed this with top management, and you don't see an alternative to maintaining full control over work rules. The objective is to continue the current level of production and maintain management flexibility. It would be difficult to do this without the power to establish work rules. Wages. In the last contract negotiation, you agreed to a wage rate of $9.75. Baxter is still paying among the highest wages in the industry. Neither you nor top management sees a need to increase wages when your labor costs are already so high. Top management has privately conceded they're willing to pay more, but only on the condition that they retain full control over hiring and layoff decisions, production levels, and working rules. Baxter's chief counsel expressed his views of the alternatives if a new contract were not signed. We could shut down the plant completely. We could try to run the plant with management employees on a reduced basis. We could hire temporary replacements for strikers who elect to stay out, or we could hire permanent replacements for strikers who elect to stay out. Any combination of these things. You believe it is possible to negotiate a contract that will provide Baxter with reasonable income, hiring and layoff flexibility, and a positive, efficient workplace. But if you cannot reach such a contract, top management has said they are willing to lock out the employees. The result would be a lot of bad press, but it would also mean hiring non-union employees at up to $5 per hour less than you currently pay your employees. You don't want to go to a lockout. For the last 50 years, Baxter is a model of positive management labor relations, and you'd like to keep it that way. However, a lockout is better than agreeing to a contract that takes profit and flexibility away from Baxter.
This makes it sound like to me that these employees have had it too easy in a lot of ways.
Yep.
You know, I mean, even if you take wage out of consideration, I mean, they kind of just did whatever they wanted. So I don't think a lot of these things are unreasonable.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's easy to me. I mean, you can hire someone with $5 an hour less. That is crazy to me. That's a lot of money. So,
and the other thing, the 52-week layoff notice is insane.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's insane.
I would say 30 days, honestly.
Yeah, I think 30 days is good.
30 days, which is, you know, basically average, pretty normal for any industry.
Yeah.
And if they fight for it, I would say 90 days is the top.
Yeah, because 52 weeks, so unnecessary.
Yeah. So go with 30 days, but 90 days is the top.
Should we go back and meet with them? And
Yeah, but let's.
We also need to talk about the hiring and firing.
Yeah, we need to regain control of hiring and layoffs and work rules. They need to not just, oh, if we get it all done in the morning, we can sit around and get paid for nothing in the afternoon. I mean, there's got to be, those have to be, in my opinion, non-negotiable.
And they talk about making a whole new work rules. It's probably the best way to do it, to have a compromise. I think it just makes sense to me that the other thing is they can't do really like bonuses right now because it's not like, because since they're doing different kinds in the same machine, they can't really do like that. So I will say definitely make the work rules as you just come in, let's say 8 to 5, and that's it, like per hour, and then you're done. Since
Yeah.
the machine is gonna keep working, so 8 to 5, or something like that. And
And
I would say if they're willing to do it, we're willing to go up to $10 per hour because I feel like
yeah.
that will be fair.
And they need to be trained in everything that their job does. And, because before it was like, oh, they did one thing, but now their machine does multiple things and they don't like it. Well, you're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Be trained in everything. We're in charge of hiring. We no more 52-week layoff. And yeah.
Okay. Well, it looks like we go back and then we all negotiate it. And then we have to write up a final contract as a team.
Okay.
So,
So do we click on the leave breakout room? I'm going to do that and see what happens. Return to main.
okay.
We're back. Are you ready for us?
We're ready.
Yeah, we just barely came back. Did you guys just come back too?
Just barely,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
All
perfect.
right. Good timing.
Okay.
Our fearless leaders.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's see where this goes, right?
Yeah, well, the wording on this one kind of looks like when everyone comes back, you have 20 to 30 minutes to negotiate a final contract. So I think that's everybody.
Oh, good. I need them backing me up because Becky's just been cussing me out. She said
Yeah.
I came.
Hardball time, people.
All right, Becky, hit us off.
No, I wish I could put on that persona. But.
And then when we're done, we have to write up a final contract as a team.
Oh, wow. This is a long one.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Alrighty. So go for it, Baxter.
All right. We're just going to lock everybody out. We're done with this.
We're done. We're putting up a fence.
You're going
You're
straight
out.
to strike.
Barbed wire.
We're
Well,
ready.
you have no production going. Then what do you want to talk about some bankruptcy?
We're moving the plant to Mexico.
Right?
They work for $1.25 an hour down there.
Yeah, what do you got?
They just confirmed everything we said that they would do.
That might even be pesos. It might be a peso 25 an hour.
Oh.
Well, I don't think they'll accept your work conditions. Injuries are
No.
too high. Your
No.
training's horrible. So you're not going to get new employees,
You've got
even in Mexico.
And you think you're going to have a language barrier. You think that there's a large injury rate right now? Just wait till you get to Mexico, and they can't even understand what you're training them.
Jorge's been in
You know
management for 7 years now. We're taking Jorge with us.
Jorge's my son. His name is George.
We already pay above industry average, so we can get new employees.
So you're willing to burn the bridge with the whole town, basically.
Both
The
bridges.
entire town.
The entire town.
Unemployment is high right now in the 80s.
Don't you think I have to talk?
People want to relocate, to get a higher paying job. And
And I think we just might have to contact OSHA because I know you guys have not been contacting OSHA with the amount of injuries that we have. Over 200 per 100 employees injury.
Now that
Oh,
is an exaggeration,
lot.
as well as some of the injuries reported are not quite what they're being reported, because with how much you're getting paid by workman's comp, a lot of people are enjoying their little time off.
We
Okay,
saw
then get
Be-
an
we saw Becky
investigator and
Wamstein
figure
in
that
last
out.
week.
Until that's proven by investigation,
Yeah.
I'm going to say that we're going to say that our employees have been injured because you guys are pushing production through way too fast. Production needs to be lowered so that it's at a safer rate for the employee.
I don't agree with that. Like, as long as the employees are trained, then they can do a good job. But right now, the biggest problem is because, you know, they're having new guy to train new guy. So
That's your
That's
problem.
because you guys are getting rid of your more qualified employees by giving them early retirement because you want to pay a lower rate on somebody who doesn't have the qualifications to be even running the machine.
Our new plant is very efficient, and with the 52-week layoff notice, that is one way that we were able to pare down the workforce as opposed to doing layoffs. And we feel like, you know, employees need to accept more training, and they're not accepting the training. They're complaining that the new machines are doing multiple things instead of just the same thing over and over again that you were doing at the old plant.
But you're not listening to our ideas, and that's why the injuries are higher, is because we're the ones running the machine, not management. So they know the equipment and the efficiencies that can be gained. So if we brought down the productivity goals just a little bit, there wouldn't be such a panic to reach these unrealistic goals. If we could bring that back, and you would listen to our improvements on the processes, then we would have less injuries, and it wouldn't be we would have our say in more of our workday.
if we put down the time from 52 weeks to, let's say, 30 days, so then, okay, just to be realistic here, if one person say that, hey, you're fired, but that's talking about a year later, and what are they gonna do every day? They're just gonna go to work and not really work, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just
No, we have hard workers. We have hard workers who have been grandfathered into this
how do you prove
new
it?
plan. You can't
We
just
need
all of a
investigation
sudden
for that as
take
well.
it away.
Yeah, but you're talking about
Okay, you know
firing
what?
versus
New
layoff.
hires, absolutely. If you have a new hire, I think you can change that layoff program to those new hires, that those who have been grandfathered in or who have worked for this company for many years and it's in that 7-year contract. I don't think you can take away that 52-week.
The 7-year
layoff.
contract
But if
is
you want to
up.
do that with your new employees, because it's a lower rate. It's a lower rate to rehire those new hires than it is to rehire somebody who has been tenured with your company.
Yet it'll still be higher than the industry standard. And like Corey just said, it's a new contract now. The last one
Contract's up.
expired.
You're not grandfathered into the 52 weeks anymore. New contract.
Well, I think with new hires, that's great. Do that with your new hires, but this is what you guys have done with your employees since you've been open, since you have opened up your doors in 1800s.
And now it's selling it. That's why we did changes.
Yeah,
You're selling the company?
Selling what?
no.
Are you selling the company? Okay, then you have something that you need to be standing behind. This is your company. You need to stand behind those standards that you've set for over 100 years.
Times change. The world changes.
Well, okay, if we talk about 100 years, then our wage should probably go back down to $8.25.
Well,
That's way
probably
too
$1.25.
Yeah, that's what it was 100 years ago. If
That's
we
way
want to
too
stand
low.
by 100-year.
That's way too low.
Hey,
Family can't give family can't afford to-
Obviously you're taking out all of the history and what the foundation of the company was built on. So if we're admitting that publicly, that you're just wiping out all history and loyalty to any of your employees, and you want us to start from complete scratch to where we can go back to the union and allow them to read over that and know that, that's a conversation that just needs to be stated. You just need to let us know that's where you're coming from.
So let's talk about that. If we lay everyone off, we can hire new people for $5 an hour less than what we're paying for our employees right now.
So how much production would you lose, and how long would it take you to do that?
Our plant is the most efficient in the
Outside of your machines doing the work, how long, once we were all gone and you had to re-establish your whole plant, how much production will you have lost and it will have cost you in the industry? And a move like this on your record, who's really going to come in? You're going to get those desperate, unqualified workers that have to just be there for a paycheck, and the first instance they can leave, they will. So
Exactly. So then we need a compromise between the workers' quality as well as the money wise.
So when you started this meeting, you said you're selling your meeting and going to Mexico. You gave zero indication. You wanted to play ball.
Yep.
You didn't come in with any suggestions. You wiped the slate and just said, we really don't care about you. We'll start new. So I'm asking, how willing are you to do that? And when you're going to communicate that to the public? Businesses live and die by decisions like this. And I think you're on the road to going
You're on
down.
the road to death.
Actually, you're so right, because we do care about employees and we want to keep them. But at the same time, if the company is not making any profit or not enough, then how are we going to keep the employees? We can't pay them, right? So
Well,
we
what's
want to
enough
keep
profit
them,
to
and we
you?
want to keep the incentive.
Your
You guys are
pocketbook,
making a profit. You are making a profit.
Yeah.
What's your profit standard?
just you comparing yourself to the guy next door does not, on wages, doesn't can't be the final decision.
Okay,
Maybe, but it's
so
definitely part of it, because if the other person is making a lot more money because they pay less, then
But they're not.
gonna
You've seen them
survive.
shut their doors and they've compiled and come together. So those lower wages, you should check out their turnovers, things like that. It costs more to train. You have very loyal people here, and you're going to start bringing in a completely different clientele if you drop below a certain level.
so my question is, what are you guys, where are you at? What do you want?
Proposing.
Yeah, what are you proposing?
Okay, we're proposing, we want our production
Lowered.
goals lowered to about 80% of what they are today.
Which will lessen the injury rate.
And
We want and we could even maybe talk about changing I think 52-week layoff is very long, but I think those who are tenured with the company should not be laid off as quickly as those new hires.
I
Right.
agree.
Well, except that some new hires are good and some people that are tenured aren't good. I feel like we need to have a choice in keeping the employees that are really good. And sometimes you get someone who's been with the company a long time because they've been grandfathered in, does not mean that they're a better employee than the guy that we hired a month ago.
Yeah, but there's differences between layoffs and termination.
Terminations.
And you can terminate for cause probably at any time. I'm just this is outside of, because we have no idea. But
Yeah, well, yeah.
Mass
When
layoffs are
unions are
different.
involved, that's not always cause is a little trickier.
okay, but terminations can still happen. We're not saying
Termination
anybody you
doesn't
try to
count.
fire gets 52 weeks.
Right.
Because layoffs are mass layoffs. I think you have to hit a certain quantity or whatever. So if those employees, those grandfathered in people, are really causing the problems, then there needs to be
There needs to be a termination process.
Okay. And wages, what do you want wage-wise?
that was set last time.
Or are we
In
going
my
to stick at
opinion,
what we
fine.
said last time?
Yeah.
I think you're trying to renegotiate that and bring us down even lower, Becky.
Well,
Well,
actually,
hold
I'm
on.
not touching that.
So you
I'm already mad about that. So,
what we want control over hiring and layoffs. And we're willing to negotiate on the wage end, but we want control over hiring and layoffs. And we want work rules and training.
we would be fine with work rules and
I
training.
think work
Work
rules and training
rules.
is fine.
But yeah, I wanted in on work rules. I think that helps us have a better understanding and reduce injury and that sort of thing. Even if as far as production, I mean, if we can work together, maybe we don't need to bring it down to 80%, but we drop it by 10% and we work together on those work rules and safety.
Wait, hold on. You and your two teammates are not on the same page. They said that we can have it, and now that you're disagreeing, so
Oh wait,
what?
no,
not
he's
saying-
trying to compromise.
No,
We
we're
were saying 80%. Now he's trying to raise that a little bit. That will help you guys with 90% production instead of 80% production.
One of the issues with the work is once you hit your production and having time to kind of do whatever you want, that's not something that's going to keep happening.
I don't think that was happening in the last one.
I don't think that's been happening. If
That's-
anything,
That was in the beginning of one of them, and then it was also
it
in
was talking
ours.
about how they would just sit around and
That once
do
they
nothing.
hit their production goal, they could sit around and do whatever they wanted the rest of the day.
that was in
That
the
was in
first
our-
plant.
Right.
First plant, not second plant.
Yeah,
First
that's-
plant.
In our reading, it actually was going on in the second plant as well.
Oh.
And so that has to go.
So if that has to go, and I think you probably agree with that too, then I think it would be important for us to do just like a 9 to 5, and you come to work and you pay by hour, and that's it. I think that's pretty fair. What do you
And
think?
work.
You guys get better details than we did.
Well, that was in our details that they would, even in the new plant, hit their production goal and then do whatever they wanted the rest of the day. Kind of
And
just,
that's the other thing about,
We didn't get that.
well,
Yeah,
that's
I thought
okay, but that's the
I
other
thought
thing about
production
production
goals were
goal is because the plant, it has machine right now, so it's not just like one type each. So they can't really do like a,
yeah.
production goal at that moment as individual department. You can only do a production goal as a company as a whole. So I think it's pretty fair. They come to work and pay by hour, and you don't get to sit around and not do anything and get paid.
There was also some argument about always needing to have a machine manned and telling a supervisor when you need to take a break. And there was some pushback about that. And that has to go in the work rules. You tell a supervisor that you're leaving on break so that they can find someone to cover your machine.
I agree with that.
We were told there was pushback about that. And so that's going to go in the rules.
That's not
So
good.
I agree. There should be no. There should not be sitting around. We can all agree on that.
I can all agree with that, and I think there should be designated breaks.
Right. And
I
a
agree with that too.
supervisor needs to be told so that someone's always on a machine. Seems reasonable.
So,
By
but
the way, Jeff and Crystal, that's what you guys should be writing down, because you guys should be writing the contract.
Yeah, so I've got some things here. See what everyone thinks. I've been writing down. So this is just a rough draft. Production 90%. Layoffs. I wrote down 2 months. Is that a reasonable? Compromise?
that is a drastic. I think we need a little more. So
Okay,
you're talking the layoffs are
9
mass
weeks.
layoffs, are mass. So that's going to affect a percentage of your workforce. It's not individualized. So I think when those things are coming, and I don't think it's fair to wait till the very end to tell your employees. So I would say it doesn't have to be 52 weeks, but it would say at least 30 weeks.
Or
We were going up to 3 months, 90 days.
Yeah, I think that is pretty fair. I mean,
Yeah,
you guys
90
all
days
have
is
to work
more than
before.
fair for everyone across the board.
That's 3 months to look for a new job.
Yep.
1 quarter.
But you're talking about relocations because this town is obviously going nowhere. 3 months is not that long. Especially you're going to know far more in advance than 3 months.
So 13
Doing
weeks.
mass layoffs.
What? 26
Wait, whoa.
weeks is
I don't know. I think 3 months is plenty.
I think 3 months is plenty too. Okay.
I think
let-
I think we're coming down a lot. I think we just meet in the middle on this one. And
I think you brought up a good point about relocation. So I would say 20 weeks.
20 weeks, that's pretty fair. That's 5 months. Almost
26
5.
weeks is pretty fair. It's halfway.
Wait, what?
Well, between 12 weeks and 26 weeks, halfway is 19 weeks.
But I'm not starting at 26 weeks. I'm ending at 26 weeks. I started at 52, so I've given you quite a bit.
I don't think 26 weeks.
Do you want the matter of 6 weeks to be the difference between a strike and no strike?
Hey, that was going to be my line with the lockout.
Yeah,
You're
I say 20.
Yeah, 20 is really a lot of time.
20, and do we want to discuss what we decided for wage? 20, and we'll give them
20 and you're giving me more
Yeah.
in wage?
20, and we're
Everyone
going to give
does
you
it that
10.
way.
Going to give us a whole quarter more. And kick people out of their homes.
Per hour.
Right,
and
20 and 1025.
Nope. Come on, compromise.
feel like-
We are trying
I feel
so hard
like-
to compromise.
Oh, no, I think the opposite. You guys came in way too hard and you're not compromising.
I think 10 and a quarter could be fair if we get the concessions as well on management having control over hiring and work rules.
Yeah,
So,
And they already said that. So,
and 20,
no,
and
you
20.
didn't already say that. What are you?
20 weeks.
What's the hiring? You don't have control of hiring now?
You don't have
okay,
HR.
hold on. Let me ask you guys a question. How long of a notice do you get when you get fired from your work?
Fired and laid off are completely
Okay, when you get laid off, how long do you get?
You know,
I've never
every
been laid off, so I'm not sure.
I've never been laid off, but my husband has, and my brother-in-laws have. They get,
No more than
if they're
30 days.
lucky, they get a week.
Yeah, people at Sam's Club showed up to work to find out they were laid off.
Yeah.
This is also
And they were sent home. I mean,
This
it's
was back in the 80s,
Yeah.
guys.
And this
52 weeks to me just seems insane.
And they weren't
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, it's even worse. It's
No.
like you come
Yeah.
home, you come to work and you're like, you're done. And then next day you're gone.
The
Yes.
bulldozers are knocking the
2 weeks is
plant over.
way long.
It is insane.
20 weeks really is,
I even think 20 weeks is too long.
exactly. I think 20 weeks is way long.
I think 3 months is more than enough, but we can go to 20 weeks.
we can go to 26. So we have a 6-week problem. But somebody's got to pick
Well,
up the
and we can go
before.
up to 10.25 an hour.
yeah 1025 in the 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Those are our two trades. Don't throw in any other negotiations on top of those.
All right, 10, 25, 20 weeks. Done.
All right, so now to recap again, I got production at 90%, layoffs at 20 weeks, wages at 10.25, a 9 to 5 work day, management control over hiring and work rules, designated breaks every 4 hours.
I don't, to Dallas's point, you brought up, we need some say in work rules.
Yes, the union needs to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, but how much to be part of it? Like,
Well, that's kind of
what
what
are you talking
the
about?
designated
So,
breaks every 4 hours.
We're giving you the that you have to notify a supervisor and designated breaks and you work the whole day. What we want as far as work rules are more the practices and the how to do things to be safe and that sort of thing.
That seems fair to me.
Yeah.
Those were the 3 things that were of concern to us, and I agree. Things need to be safe, and yeah, that's fair.
I think we have a compromise. We have a
Hey,
contract.
Yeah,
Let
see how
me-
easy and nice that was?
let me read this one last time to make sure we're good. So production 90%, layoff 20 weeks, wages 10.25, a 9 to 5 workday, management control over hiring and work rules with consultation with employees, and designated breaks every 4 hours.
Yes.
Hold on. When you say designated break every 4 hours, how do you count that? Because if everyone start working at, oh, you mean like lunch break and stuff?
Well,
But you're saying a 9 to 5, that's not realistic. It's a plant. It's going to be crazy hours. There's going to be swing shifts, night, days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, an 8-hour shift is.
All right. That
So
makes
like a full 8-hour shift so that it's not.
And when you have different overlapping shifts, then we can have a designated 4-hour breaks, but because shifts start and end different periods, there'll always be someone manning a machine.
Right. And how are we
Great.
handling overtime?
Well, I guess time and a half. when overtime is allowed, but it has to be.
I don't think they need it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
probably don't need it. And
But yeah, I would say time and a half is good.
and I think there should be a overtime is allowed. You can do overtime when a manager says you can. You can't just decide to work longer for fun.
Yeah.
Sure. But how are you to give mandatory overtime? What
Do we
kind of
do mandatory
notice and say do we get in that?
I
When
suppose
your productions fall or your, demand is higher or your staffing's too low.
there should be, I guess.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're going to put that under working rules.
Okay, sounds good.
So now it does say that we write up a final contract as a team. Do we count that and then just Crystal and I can work together to put that together to turn in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those.
Because I think it's kind of pointless at this point to open up a Word document with all of us here and to type it up.
So
Should
we
take
just do a Google Doc and me and you can,
Yeah.
if you want to.
Do you know how to make one of those? Because I don't.
You know what? We do contracts. I do contracts all the time with our teachers.
Okay. Well, I meant a Google Doc.
Oh, Google Doc. Yeah, I know how to do that.
Okay. Yeah, you'll
That
send
too.
that over.
I'll get it sent over to you and we can work on it. Okay.
Okay. So our last thing, we need to go over the doohickey thing. Is there anything we need to discuss? I got mine added in Saturday. I haven't looked since yesterday though.
I've got to get
I
mine
mean-
added in. It's on a Word doc. I just haven't put it on. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had a crazy busy weekend. I'm going to get to mine and get it in tomorrow.
I was gonna say I think Jeff and I are the only ones that are on the Google Doc right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We had a family wedding, bunch of family in town, and then my kids got sick and all this drama.
I
I'll
totally
get
get it.
it done by tomorrow.
Yeah, I sent my part to Corey to review before she did her part. So
Yeah.
So
yeah.
should we set on Wednesday again? Well, I guess tomorrow is Wednesday. Yeah.
Tomorrow's Wednesday, so if you could give me tomorrow evening to get done, I work during the day.
And then I will start working on it on Thursday.
Yeah, and then I'll be available to help, with anything else. The intro, I don't know what other stuff.
Intro, I got it. Can anyone do the conclusion as well as the most critical? We need to decide on the most critical issue right now too.
Oh yeah, we should decide now.
yeah, so I know we had discipline because that's what I wrote on.
Yeah.
The other two.
And
wages.
wages.
Benefits, yeah.
I would maybe discipline's the most critical. I don't know.
Wages and benefits, and were those the three?
With that company, with how bad a shape they're in, I'd say compensation and benefits might be the most critical.
It might be.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
That's true. If we fix that, then the discipline issues might kind of fix themselves.
They won't be such ridiculous. We're all feeling very why can't I think of that word?
Contradictory. I don't know.
We've been arguing.
We've been
and
arguing.
Confrontational.
keep
Confrontational. Thank you.
arguing.
No, I think it's discipline. No, just oh, I'm all fired up now.
Oh, okay, so who's gonna do the most critical issue and who's gonna do conclusion?
I will do the conclusion.
Okay. Anyone most critical issue? Someone. I already did the introduction, so
I can work on the most critical.
okay,
Conclusion.
sounds great. So tomorrow, and now we'll start working on it Thursday. I think that will be it. And then again, I would just put the whole thing together. If you guys can just kind of look at the grammar and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
make sure you citation is the biggest thing that we're not matching up.
Grade our last paper?
By the way, yeah, he hasn't graded our last paper yet. What was that with him?
Yeah, he hasn't been doing too much lately. He just moved. I sent him an
Oh yeah, he
email
just moved.
like 6 times, and he finally responded to it 2 weeks later this morning.
Oh, that's
Okay.
Oh, poor
tough
man.
to move when you've got young kids.
Yeah.
He just moved like 3.5 miles from my house. I thought about going over and finding them. Because he told me what subdivision and everything. So.
Hey, neighbor.
You guys might be in the same ward. Who knows?
Oh, that's like 4 stakes over here.
Yeah, right.
Is it really?
Well, no, there's
It's
just
Idaho,
there's
right?
just two in between us.
Yeah, it's Idaho. What can you say?
So
Yeah.
So, but
I was raised in Idaho, so I understand it.
just try to put in MLS.
So we need to make sure we're doing
MLA
format,
format.
right?
Yes. So in test and in the bottom.
so what is it in text? It's just the heading in print,
So
right?
in test, how you do MLA is basically the author's last name, comma, and the year that is published.
What about on
And
the
sometimes,
website?
exactly, sometimes there's no published year, then you just put 2018, like when do you retrieve it, kind of thing.
Okay.
So that would be it, I think.
And then all it is a website at the bottom, correct?
No, the bottom is different. Okay, I will fix the first one for you if you go in and fix it. You know what? I'll go fix both of the ones for you. It'll be easy.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And then that would be it. I think, yep. Then I'll see you guys. Well, who's next?
I can do next week. I think it's me.
Yeah. And then is there any double leaders? Let me see.
That was crazy, huh?
If there's a double thing, I think I'm the next one after that.
After me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think there's one the final week, so as long as there's not, that'll actually have it land perfect for every one of us twice. So
Yeah. Also, there's just one. So Corey go first, and then Dallas next. The next week after Corey.
Sounds good.
All right.
So
Great.
all right.
Hey,
I enjoyed the discussion and the confrontation. It was fun.
It was. I wish
It
I
was
could
fun.
like stick to my mean persona better because when I start laughing, it
I
doesn't.
know, but
I
it's
know.
so hard.
yelled at me.
I'll work on that.
Everybody did great because
Yes.
we had trouble. We all stuck to our guns. So that's great.
okay, well, I'm going to stop our recording and
Yeah.